How are you, gents? This is Noah from Noah's Archetypes, and today we'll be looking at a few new cards that just got released for the Amazonas archetype. Starting with their boss monster, known as Amazonas Kaiserin. This is a Earth level 10 warrior fusion monster with 3200 attack and 2800 defense, and she requires one Amazonas fusion monster plus one Amazonas monster. And it says, if this card is fusion summoned, you can special summon one Amazonas monster from your deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. Your opponent cannot target other Amazonas monsters you control with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. This card, fusion summoned using Amazonas Queen and or Amazonas Empress as material, can make a second attack during each battle phase. Okay, so the double attack is actually pretty decent, especially if you're using a certain trap card. Then you'll just be banishing a lot of your opponent's stuff. It does need a Amazonas fusion monster, so you will have to use a lot of effort to get this card out, but I do think that they are finally addressing some of the problems with the Amazonas archetype, and that is that they don't have a way to extend. They do have one or two monsters that can summon themselves to the field, but other than that, there's no real way to extend with this archetype. And so finally this card allows you to special summon from your deck even before the battle phase, so that way you can basically set up your board before going to battle phase. So I really like this card. Empress basically can special summon a queen from the hand, deck or graveyard if it was destroyed by battle or by opponent's card, but that really relies on your opponent. Amazonas Queen basically prevents other monsters from being destroyed. So if you brought this out with Kaiserin, then your monsters are protected from battle, destruction, and card targeting and card destruction. So that actually makes it a pretty decent card as well. But the other option is Amazonas Princess, since this card can actually bring a spell or trap card from the deck to the hand when it is normal or special summoned. Also, when it attacks, it can then send one of your Amazonas or just any of your cards to the graveyard. Then you can special summon an Amazonas monster in defense position. So you could basically use Amazonas Princess to bring out Queen. Then you're protected from battle destruction, and Kaiserin will then do the rest. So that's actually a decent way to extend on your own board. Yeah, I really think this is a decent card, and I think I can see people using at least one of these. I don't know if you guys noticed that Amazonas Kaiserin and Empress look a lot like Amazonas Princess, since they all three have white hair. So it kind of does seem like Amazonas Princess has kind of surpassed her mother, not just in terms of attack and all that stuff and positioning, but also the effects show that Amazonas Princess became a greater ruler than her mother. Next is another fusion card, and this is a new beast Amazonas monster called Amazonas King Liger. It's an Earth level 9 beast fusion monster with 2900 attack and 2800 defense. It needs one level 5 or higher Amazonas monster plus one Amazonas monster. Monsters your opponent controls cannot attack monsters except this one. You can target one Amazonas card you control and one warrior Amazonas monster in your graveyard. Destroy the first target, and if you do, special summon the second target from your graveyard. This card cannot attack the turn you activate this effect, and this is a once per turn. So I really don't like the fact that it can't attack when it destroys a card and special summons a monster from a graveyard, because it's basically a 1-for-1 exchange, and yeah, I just don't think that's that great of an effect. So if you wanted to fusion summon into the new boss monster, that would be possible, since you can special summon Amazonas Queen or Princess from the graveyard. Then you'd be able to use a fusion card to summon the Kaiserin to the field, and it would have all its effects active, since it was summoned with a queen and you used a fusion Amazonas monster to bring it out. So that is an option. So Pet Liger has a similar effect where you can attack other monsters. So it does make me wonder, since Tiger has that same effect. If you had two of these three cards on the field, your opponent probably wouldn't be able to attack, so they'd have to think of new creative ways to get rid of this monster. And Pet Liger can attack your opponent's monster, it gains 500 attack, and then it can also make one of your opponent's monsters lose 800 attack. Not the greatest effect, but you know, this is a battle heavy archetype anyway, so what else would you expect it to do? I was actually hoping that they would release a new warrior monster that would be a reference to Tanya from the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime, as she was the representative of the Amazonas archetype back in GX, and she basically turned into a tiger at the end of the episode. So it would have been cool if they created a monster that, when destroyed by battle or card effect, floats into a beast Amazonas monster in the graveyard. Then it would have been also cool if they created an alternate artwork for Amazonas tiger that basically is just white furred with two scars on the left eye as a reference to this tiger that Tanya turns into. But doesn't seem like we're gonna get that. Next up, we have a direct reference to the Tyler sisters, who basically played with the Amazonas cards themselves, and they were a tag team. So that is why, as you can see, the two monsters have both silver and gold hair as a reference to these characters, and the skull kind of covers their face because it's supposed to be these characters in some way or other. They basically have more or less the same effect. Amazonas Golden Whip Master and Amazonas Silver Sword Master. Golden Whip is level 5, Silver Sword is level 3. They are both Warrior Pendulum Effect monsters. Golden Whip has 2000 attack and 1200 defense, and Silver Sword has 1200 attack and 2000 defense, and their scales are 1-1 and 7-7 respectively. Silver Sword's Pendulum Effect says that Amazonas monsters gain 100 attack times 100 for the level, and when an attack is declared involving an Amazonas monster, you can target one Amazonas spell or trap in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Golden Whip has a similar effect. Instead of adding a spell or trap from your graveyard to your hand, you destroy a spell or trap on the field. Then the monster effect says if this card in the monster zone is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. If an Amazonas monster is special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, you can place this card in your pendulum zone, and that's a once per turn effect. So basically, I think if you use them as fusion material from your hand, you would be able to then special summon or place them in the pendulum zone right after the fusion monster is summoned, which is pretty decent. And now there is a way to get multiple Amazonas monsters out onto the field because you have now these two pendulum monsters. So I think they are pretty good, and we didn't have a way to recover our spell and trap cards effectively, so I do think that that effect is decent, and the spell and trap destruction isn't that bad either. Amazonas monsters out onto the field. We have a new shaman, not the same shaman in the background, but it's a younger shaman named Amazonas Shaman. That's an earth level 2 warrior monster with 800 attack and 1800 defense. So the first thing I want to mention is that I'm sure you've seen the shaman, the older shaman, in other spell and trap artworks, and it kind of seems like she's too old to be battling, and she focuses mostly on spells and stuff like that, and that is why there's no monster card for her, whereas this new younger one still is able to battle even though she is not as strong. So I do really think that is very cool that they never made a monster for the older shaman, because she's not a warrior as much anymore because she can't do battle at her age. So this card says if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target one Amazonas card you control except Amazonas Shaman. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Amazonas monsters. Also return the targeted card to your hand, and if you do special summon this card, if this card is special summoned, you can add one polymerization from your deck to your hand, and that's a once per turn on each effect. So this card seems to be focusing more on the ability to combine the power of two different Amazonas warriors, or maybe even the tiger with the warriors, which I think is pretty cool, and it just basically helps you facilitate the fusion summoning, which the deck really did need a way to search out fusion support. And there is a new fusion spell card as well, so they are really pushing for the fusion direction. Finally, this artwork here, we haven't actually gotten the real card for it. I think it's called Amazona's Calling, but the blue head does kind of remind me of Amazona's Shaman, so maybe they'll make that card now that we have Amazona's Shaman as a real monster. So this has both the older Shaman and the younger Shaman in the artwork, and it's called Amazona's Secret Technique, which is a quick play spell. It says fusion summon on Amazona's fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. You can banish this card from a graveyard once. If you would fusion summon an Amazona's fusion monster this turn, you can also send one Amazona's monster from your extra deck to the graveyard as material. And that's a once per turn on one effect, so you can't use both in the same turn. I do still think that the second effect is very good, because if your opponent was able to wipe your board and you don't have much left in terms of material, like one polymerization, one monster in hand, and nothing else, you could then use polymerization and fuse using one of your monsters from your extra deck. And if you, for example, fused into your boss monster, they'd be able to bring out a monster from the deck, and then you'd be able to extend further. Or even if you're using pet, or not pet Liger, King Liger, you'd be able to get a monster from the graveyard maybe, and then continue from there. So I do think that that effect is actually a good one, since most of the level 5 monsters are from the extra deck other than Queen. So this is a good extender. There are a few other spell or trap cards that I wish they'd make into real cards from the GX era, like Amazona's Arena, but this card had a crap effect in the anime. So it would be cool if, for example, when you activated it, you'd add a Amazona's monster from your deck to your hand, and it would be a hard once per turn maybe. That way you'd actually consider running this card in the deck. And then there's other cards like Amazona's Charm. They could change their to blue to kind of fit with Amazona's Shaman, since I don't think there's a card that this monster is specifically referencing. But either way, in the anime, it would switch your opponent's monster to do from defense position to attack position, and they'd gain 200 attack, and then it did nothing else. I think that they should have made it so that you could special summon a Amazona's monster from the deck or graveyard whose attack is lower than the monster whose attack just got raised, and that way you'd be able to basically continue with your plays using this new spell card if they decided to turn it into one. But so far, with all the support that they've given us, I do think that the Amazona's archetype will actually get a little bit better, since fusion summoning is a bit easier now, and the pendulum monsters do help you get more Amazona's monsters out onto the field at one time. Tell me what you guys think of these cards. Do you like the new support? And yeah, like the video down below and subscribe to the channel, and I'll check you guys on the next